interesting in the way.
Yeah, it is. I love it.
That is.
I could sit here all day and talk to you, lovey.
Please do.
We might have to have these, I think, workshop things where we're chatting all day.
Yeah.
Doing all sorts.
Yeah, that would be good.
People need to now get on with it, don't they, lovey?
Once we've got COVID out the way.
That's it, next year, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever,
just
lovey.
plan for that.
Yeah.
Which would be good.
But we don't want to step on anyone's toes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not stepping on anyone's toes.
Because Linda's very, what can I say?
I think it's much needed.
Person.
I think it's much needed, and as long as Linda is wanting to do it,
she's
we are.
She's been waiting to do it for years. We've kept her under wraps.
Right.
We've kept her off the scale, kept her out the way of everyone, because we wanted to build her up into this energy level that's, what can I say? She can work on any energy level needed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, and that's what we've had to keep her out of sights for, because other influences may have made us not be able to work with her.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Hence her being like a hermit at times. Now she's building up her confidence.
Good.
Thanks to you and other people, and that's what's needed now, because we're all ready to do it.
Yeah.
So we're on board, lovey.
Good.
So you just ask and we do it.
All right. Yeah. Well, we're Linda and I are working together. We're all working together.
We're all working together.
Make it happen. So
absolutely. Yeah.
It's required, so it's good.
So the service of the DNA, you see, is like a property of levels of energies that work through a system that begins to encourage it to suddenly separate from other things at times, so it can immerse in a different element.
Okay.
And then it suddenly becomes less active through a different element, and then it begins to form a different structure towards what it needs to align in itself. Talking of alignment, you're talking of alignment earlier.
Yeah.
And that's where that comes in, you see. So as the alignment of each individual cell begins its own section of life, it suddenly starts to unravel its position towards what I'd say as a physical matter, the physical matter being just a wavelength of information that is now beginning to instruct itself into a different sort of form of evidence.
Okay.
So it's now breaking forward and delivering its own measure of thought in a different way.
So it obviously receives communication from the earth changes. To allow things to change within that person to move forward to the next.
Yeah, it circulates round.
Right.
It circulates round in like a fashion, like a bumblebee would, if you like.
Yeah.
And it operates through a cellular structure that then brings it forward into its measure of thought, so it can then bring down to earth what's needed towards the energies on the earth. And then as the earth begins its own sort of dictation, if you like, of what it needs, it then opens up to the physical, because you're part of the earth, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it breaks the physical down into all sorts of different features of life, believe it or not.
Right.
When you go to your bed at night, and you look at yourself in the mirror, which you do when you go to bed at night, it's like, hello, is that me? Then you say to yourself, I'm going to do a little bit of work tonight, maybe on that level of energy needed to align the Earth's mission towards what I need to manifest in the atmosphere.
When you say the mirror, do you mean just reflecting?
Yeah.
Not actually in a mirror?
Not actually.
Right, okay.
I'm looking at myself saying, oh hello, it's me.
Yeah.
You're seeing who you are.
Right, that I got it, yeah.
It's just a symbol of what I say, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's like Hillary Clinton. She doesn't always look in the mirror.
No.
Because she doesn't know what she's doing half the time, because she just follows suit with her old man.
Right, yeah.
That's another story, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably as well as Trump, but yeah.
Yeah. So I say. So each mission of the, let's say, it's like ancestry, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. We won't talk about that today. Ancestry.
Can I just one question on that?
Yes, lovely.
Because in healing,
yes.
when we do, when we're doing energy work, when we say out loud, forgiving ourselves for something, it goes back through ancestry, doesn't it? To help all of, to change that pattern within the ancestry. My dad, the grandfather before that.
It can do.
Right.
What it does, you actually are sending out a microscopic link to something you know needs to be changed.
Yeah.
And then it suddenly breaks forward and goes into a different system. Then anybody from your past who maybe has seen or noticed a change in what's needed, if they're alert enough, they will then take it on board.
Right.
But if they don't see it or make it part of them in that way, then they won't take it on board. So it then carries on the same. Hence when people say about people carry on regardless doing the same thing all the time.
Right, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not here. Oh dear.
Hello.
Oh, hello dear. I just wish to say hello. I am Brenda.
Hello, Brenda.
Can I just say, my dear, that we are very happy with this connection with you.
We're happy to.
A good team, I feel you make. And it's good to see this because we need this blend of energies to help all of you to notice your own form of evidence. And as one tells one something, one can then open up to a different part of that and see it in a different way, perhaps. And allowing that to happen, it helps to evolve through other channels. So you can then say to yourself, I can see something a little different about myself. I feel this. I can see it and I can feel it, but I can notice it in others. Because as you know, my dear, as you go and form this energy level that becomes very satisfying to you, it just spreads further afield towards others.
Mm.
And they then feel that there is something there that is awakening, or perhaps it's placing them in a different vocabulary, and you feel as though you need to speak out or let go of something. And that is what it is, you know, that you're talking about here, really, my dear. In this way, I feel that things do affect one another and another, and it goes on. So it's really about the measure of existence within oneself. It becomes more apparent to oneself when one is in need of perhaps entering a different realm of knowledge. And I feel you've been very much, my dear, connected to many things in your life that are now, I feel, awakening you on a different level, which has made you become, obviously, of the person you are, but you're going to see in the coming weeks there's going to be a lot of change occurring around you, which is going to help you to engage in a different process with your helpers and your guides who are waiting for you on the other side to wake up to a different measure of their feelings, which is what you're all doing at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel a sadness in you at times, my dear.
Right.
Of almost uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I see this, but I feel as though it's going to bring you into a different order of service, because you've now shown yourself it's not there to be worked with at all.
Good.
And I hope the energies today are going to help you anyway, as you will see later in the day.
Okay, good, thank you.
God bless her.
Thank you, Brenda.
Yes. Oh, well, there you are. It's easy enough to say, isn't it, dear? Hello.
Hello.
And Bert.
Hello,
Oh,
Bert.
good morning or afternoon. What is it?
It is afternoon.
Oh, well, let's say afternoon. What is it you're doing here? I believe it's a part of an observation that you all do at times. Is this correct?
It is observing and awareness.
I hope I can be part of this in the future.
Yeah.
And bring in perhaps a little bit more sort of information at times.
Yes, most
Oh,
welcome.
jolly good. Thank you. Yes, I used to say, oh dear. It's funny, isn't it, Craig?
Yeah.
That's they just left me on my own now.
That's fair enough.
That's all right.
Yeah.
How it is. I wish to say I come with love. I bring joy, I bring inspiration to all in this time when one needs to be given a choice. White cloud, bring joy. May you come into my teepee when you need to.
Thank
you. Yes, that's good. So let's just say that there are certain things that are now bringing joy to many people at this time in a way that perhaps one doesn't always realise it. But as one is becoming more aligned with the system that's working now from you all, because you're all beginning to assist yourselves on a different wavelength now. And as the alignment starts to process its belief in all directions, it suddenly starts to waver in a way through the system that the earth needs to transport back. Now, we know things are as they are at the moment in your world, because certain things are taking more time, if you like, to purchase the system needed through the human soul. And as the human soul is beginning to understand its own position, it will show itself there are things that maybe need to be accepted on another level. So as you work through an alignment of the earth's energies into the service towards the soul's belief, it will help you as a conscious measure of thought to become less active at that time, so that you can work on either side of the coin, as I call it. Now, the other side of the coin, what is the other side of the coin, Craig? What do I mean by that? Because I call it the other side of the coin, meaning it is this way and that way. It might be your side of life, it might be our side of life. It might be the way you look at one thing and the way you look at another.
Right, okay.
That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
So when I say the other side of the coin, in the sense of what you know is what you are, who you are is what you believe, and what becomes you is always what you were anyway, it's like I'd say sometimes people don't really fully understand themselves.
Yeah.
In the way that they can perhaps individually make changes, because there are things there that people can suddenly depart with and say to themselves, I need to let go of that, and I need to become less attracted to that, or begin to understand things a bit differently. And you know, it's quite nice, isn't it, to see it when somebody actually holds himself in a different place. Makes one's day, I think, to see that going on. So there's a lot of areas of consciousness breaking forward now through your own measure of thought that helps you to resolve a position that the Earth's crust might need you to let go of. Okay. And when that happens, it suddenly breaks towards a freedom in itself, towards the dimensional status that needs to be exercised on another level. Right. So you're dealing with this at this time, in this world as you are. You're all delving into the total responsibility of what you are. Because actually, during this COVID time, there's been a lot of things people have had to understand more about in themselves, and what they need to perhaps do differently, or perhaps who they look at differently. And it's like, well, that's a wonderful thing, because if something like this hadn't have happened, where would everybody be? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you know, it's like Everybody needs to serve themselves in the right order, whatever it is. And even if at times you feel as though you're not doing maybe something perhaps you feel you could do, then it doesn't matter. Until you're ready to do it, you won't do it.
Right.
So let it go. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Become who you need to become in the way that you feel you are to become, not what you think you should become.
Yeah.
So if you look at the world and as it is now, attracting all sorts of measures of energy through the orbital system, awakening the planets in a way now that they have never actually discovered before, because they've been asleep as well, don't forget, in many ways. And they're now waking up to a process that is aligning their own energy levels.
Yeah.
So you're seeing this and you feel it, you lot who are sensitive, and you are very much, I feel, becoming more energetic in a way, because the life force that is pertaining to its own position is now awakening a different measure that becomes in a way instrumental in the way that life actually is. So there's many things that are building up now in this way, through the existence upon the earth, through the energy levels within the physical structure, through the orbital system, beginning to erase its own position because it needs to now, in a sense, migrate. So what is going on? Well, let's just say, as your position in life is what it is, as it begins to see itself for what it needs to be, it then serves itself well with the position that it needs to practice. So things around, say, Jupiter, let's say Pluto, they are perhaps now beginning to breathe in a different way, because they need to transform themselves during a time when things are less active.
Right.
Right? Because some, let's say some like Uranus, is it Uranus, whatever you call it?
Uranus, yeah.
Uranus is coming together because it needs to be transformed during a time when everything is very hectic. So these things all need the right moment. They can't just awaken and suddenly do what they need to do and then get on with it. It's got to be the right moment. So there's different energetic pulses that work with the kinetic energy throughout, that builds up during a time when things are going to be more overseen by other measures, and it's going to suddenly exchange the position in the way it needs to, because it then shows it can be produced through a different element when the time is right. Now, as this goes into a system where maybe your physical is beginning to remember what it is and what it isn't, it will suddenly reduce itself to a different particle of energy, because then it will maybe see itself in a different way. Perhaps it will show itself to be what it thinks it should be or what it shouldn't be, or maybe it will just see itself for what it has to be. So as we go into this system now with the physical, and we see that the orbital system is beginning to exchange its viewpoint in a different way, maybe the physical then can become less active, because it needs to let go of that pull, if you like, between itself and that sort of one of the planets. Because it has to let go somehow, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean, love?
I was just, as you're talking, it's stirring up lots of things in my...
Good, that's what it's supposed to do.
But it's waking you up to the fact that, a lot of humans think, basically, we're the only thing since sliced bread, yes? We don't really know that there's all these changes going on in the universe, and it's really interesting.
Yeah.
That these different planets are changing or are moving forward as well as we are.
Oh, it's like Saturn, That's the one really that is really producing so much energy that it's beginning to burst at the seams,
Right.
And therefore, I think in November, December this year, it's going to suddenly bring out of itself something that's going to bring a lot of emotion into the world.
Right, okay.
And it's going to make people feel, whoa, good heavens, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But you'll see, and it's going to let go of a lot of responsibility.
Okay.
Because it needs to.
Right.
It's been holding on to responsibility, doesn't need it anymore. And why doesn't it need it anymore?
Don't know.
Because the physical systems, human systems, have to take responsibility now.
Oh,
It's
okay.
been holding you lot up.
Right, okay. Got
It's
you.
been put in there like a peg.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, okay. I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a stabilising influence on the human race.
Exactly that, lovely.
And
Exactly
something's going to
that.
happen where we have to take on more responsibility.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
Wow.
it'll diminish so much fear as well.
Right.
Which is what obviously is the main key to behaviour. Isn't it?
Mm. Yeah.
People's behaviour.
Yeah.
It's all about the fear process, isn't it? That
Well,
stops you all from doing things. It brings people into a stage of whatever it is because the fear's taken over. But that's got to now...
yeah, especially at the moment with like anxiety, the fear of anxiety, that's really, really out there.
Profound. I mean, producing so much
Yeah.
toxic energy that the earth is, do you know the earth sort of, what's the word, choking with it.
Right.
And it is.
Okay.
Hence, the more you lot can sort of
Change.
resolve, things, it's going to help tremendously.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening, isn't it?
It is.
But it's obviously a slow process.
So, well, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, well, there you are. It's obvious. It's one knows oneself a lot more than one realises. Hello, it's Agnes.
Hello, Agnes.
Hello, dear. I wish to say that there are times in life, I believe, when people suddenly feel as though they're not able to perhaps do something they really wish to do. And it's almost as though there's a part of them that goes into a shock state.
Mm.
And it makes them feel totally out of touch with everything. And that brings them down to their knees at times. But you know, when there is in this way a part of you that is ready to transform that energy, it really does take on board a different faculty. And it really does exercise such a beautiful shape, as I call it, because you are shapes after all.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you all to produce a different energy towards others. So it does help everybody. If one can be in their own wavelength, suited and booted, as I call it, then that is good, because it shows others they can do the same. Yeah. So I hope people out there can say to themselves, I'm going to take stock of this now. I'm going to try very hard to see what it is I'm afraid of. Then perhaps they can work with that. Yeah. Perhaps you'll have therapists like ourselves here and Craig that will help you with this. If anybody's watching this that needs help, please go to somebody you trust and you care for who will help you. God bless.
Thank you.
Yes. It's interesting about shapes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shapes are produced by what exactly, Craig?
Matter.
Yeah, instruction from oneself.
Right.
Isn't it?
Which is the sacred geometry.
Yeah. See, it's like Tommy Cooper, he knew a few things.
He did.
He did. And he knew about stuff that you wouldn't have thought he would have done.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah. And he's very clued up, that bloke. And does a lot of good work over here. I say over here.
Yeah. That's interesting, again, that dimension, and that how busy you all are.
Yeah, very busy indeed. Well, we're swamped with things at the moment.
Yeah.
It's like, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, there's a lot of channeling going on in the world to different people, I suppose, different communities, different groups, and a lot of help from the star system style systems, yeah, which I find interesting as well.
Oh yeah.
And it's basically the same message, is it, coming through about love and...
Same message, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, love is what it is you are. Love is unique. Love's what makes you who you are. It produces love. It brings love. It is love. So in a sense, everything is love, isn't it? But at the time when the element of say one of the channels from a source from perhaps something around you in the universe is awakening, that's going to serve itself in a different way because it's also showing you the things that you don't need to have, and it's often breaking you down into fragments. So in a sense, it can be quite emotional and negative at times. So it actually brings you into a different, I say shape, but also into a different position, because you need to have the negative to transform the positive.
Right.
So therefore it can be done in all sorts of ways. It's all love based, because love is what it is to start with, otherwise it wouldn't be subjecting you to such things.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what it is, but it can seemingly be at times a little bit negative, because that's what the negative is transporting through to the positive to make it lighter.
But knowing that, and people knowing that, will change the fear factor, won't it?
Absolutely.
Or will help to change.
Hopefully.
Yeah, because people go into a fear, once they get a negative pattern, people I know who've gone into a really negative position, like depression, find it very difficult to get out of it.
Oh yes, it's a very sad thing indeed. We send our love to everybody out there who's suffering in whatever way it is. But the position I feel that is within is it's neglect of one's own source of energy.
Yeah.
It's like you're denying who you are, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they need to perhaps just sit and wonder at times. I know when you're in it, you can't remove it. Linda's got people she knows, obviously, like yourself, and family that suffer. And it's very hard to look on and see. Very hard to understand fully at times, unless you've been in it yourself too, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there are things I think that are to be said about that, you see, lovey. When you are subjecting yourself to something that you know is perhaps not doing you any good, you're actually defying the odds. You're actually, you're being like an assassin. You're showing yourself that you're doing that because you want rid of yourself. You don't want that part of you there anymore.
Yeah.
So if only the choice of words could be for these people, let it be, let it become what it needs to be, and that would help. But you cannot make somebody do something that they're not ready to do, can you?
That's right.
So where does it leave you when you look on and see this happening? You have to detach, don't you?
Yeah.
But
it's their choice, isn't it?
It's their choice. It's their choice. It's their what I say. It's their logo.
Yeah.
That's what I called it.
Okay.
It's their logo. So yeah. So.
It's interesting.
Well, so many things now are producing things that are awakening your consciousness in the physical as a presence of mind that's now processing more and heightening more of what's needed to be around the universe. As you know, you can transform and deal with things in ways that often are just a need in oneself to be present, I say, at one's birth. So what I mean by that is when you're born inside the womb of your mother, whatever, you're an element of truth, breaking forward and engaging in and respecting the truth for what it is and who it is. And you have to awaken that. So you wake up and you adorn things and you grow with things and you allow things to become what they need. So you're actually bringing yourself into the order needed. When there are things often that are directed at you from other sources when you're growing up, you suddenly start to see things in a different way. Think things are different. You start taking on board that negative form. Maybe you need it to work out in your own mind what you need to think. perhaps at times, you know, people do need a little bit of that input from a negative form to make you realise who you are really. Then sometimes one needs like a wake-up call or a shock. A shock is the one that often happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's things that are bringing you into this service now, in this engagement on the earth with this energy that's now producing other energy forms throughout the dimensional status. It's all breaking out now and it's becoming less of a burden. Now, often we speak of a burden in the sense that often there are things that are bringing your mind into a state of unhappiness, sadness, and it makes you feel as though you have a burden on your shoulders. That burden is really, it's what you've recognised in yourself as being a burden, that's all. Because it's not there unless you put it there.
Yeah.
It's not as though you could say someone's done that to you, because that's not the case at all. It's all about what you've put there yourself, because you've worked with it, fed it, allowed it to be there because of your energy source that feels it's now responsible to unearth itself. So as you grow and you begin to understand more about that, the energies that are inside your form of recognition start to unravel into a connection that maybe needs to be fulfilled with love, with respect, humour, all these things. So it then shows itself, it has to change its position. When it does change its position, it suddenly starts to become a little bit more extreme in itself, because it's working on another level, or perhaps it's regaining its consciousness somewhere else, or maybe it's just beginning to accept something different for a change because it needs to alter its status. Therefore, you begin to recognise things in some other things. You suddenly remember something maybe that became less of an opportunity to you when you were younger, or maybe you see things in a different way because maybe someone made you feel a little bit unhappy about yourself, or maybe you felt as though you were doing something maybe you didn't want to do and you did it because you thought you should. So you're dealing with all this at the same time.
Yeah.
In this world where you are a physical presence on the earth plane. So you have so much to deal with, so much to see and so much to be part of. And often, you know, it brings you down on your knees, and when you go to your sleep at night and go to bed your eyes, you suddenly awaken that part of you that says to itself, I need now to have a bit of respite. I need to awaken myself. So you work on another level and you see things and people. You work with people from other dimensions and you observe things on different levels. So you produce so much